Facebook group. Not so sure about that, but let's proceed nonetheless.
Let's proceed nonetheless. We've got the recording to back us up.
Yeah.
So we can always post later.
Exactly.
Instagram's the most fun anyways.
Yeah. That's where all the dog pictures are.
I know. I love the dog pictures. So we were going to chat today just amongst ourselves about some of those sort of core topics. And if you don't know me for some reason, I'm Eowyn Price Murphy, the founder and co-owner of Moxie Bookkeeping. And Eowyn, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I am Moxie's business development and client relations person, aka our people person.
All the good things. And so one of the conversations that we have a lot, we were talking about this in a staff meeting earlier, is the sort of transition period of talking to someone who's not already all in on this idea of multiple bank accounts, of why one would want to open so many different bank accounts.
Yeah. And I find that when I'm chatting with clients who are interested in working with us, maybe they've heard about Profit First, but they get really overwhelmed about setting it up. And we know that one of the trickier parts of the setup, and one of the things that is really important that we guide people through, is calculating from a Profit First lens how they're handling their cash to date, right? That CAPS calculation. So we know that's one of the trickier things, but in their mind, deciding how many banks to have and just handling multiple bank accounts feels like too much. And I think there's a good reason for it. I think it's a big step. Yeah,
and some of that big step can really be the bank that you're with, right? So I am a treasurer on a local organization, the board, and we had to get my signature card done at the bank, and it took 2 visits of 2 hours each, so a total of 4 hours, with me, the executive director, and another board member. So that
right.
Plus the person at the bank, right? So that's 4 people for 4 hours. Like,
Yeah.
And it was a little bit shocking because I had sort of assumed, which is a terrible thing to do, that many businesses, including banks, had made adjustments during COVID, the grand opportunity to up-level our services so that sort of thing wouldn't be required and there could be asynchronous.
Right.
So, I get that. I get that it can feel like a real scary pain in the butt because some banks make it that way. But hopefully with one business owner or with 2 partners, it's not so onerous. And we also have a couple of banks that we love to use that do set up online entirely and make it very easy.
Definitely. And I think cost factors in as well. Like, having a standard business checking account can be between $25 and $50 a month, unless you have 50 plus $1,000 sitting in your account. And so when someone thinks about having 6 additional bank accounts, they're like, why would I spend $150 a month just having all these accounts? So I think just thinking through and getting clear, no, there are other options. There are easier, very affordable ways to do this. I mean, the online banks that we work with, they don't charge anything monthly, regardless of the number of accounts you have, up to like 30 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the other questions that I actually get a lot is for people who are either single partner LLCs or sole proprietors, who say, do these really all have to be business checking accounts? And the answer is no. You should have your income account and your operating expense account be business checking accounts. But when it comes to the tax savings, the profit savings, and potentially even the owner's pay, that because those are all in service of you, as long as they're business purpose accounts, they don't have to be a business account on paper. And a lot of times a personal online account will get you a much better savings interest rate than a business one. So there are some creative solutions.
Yeah. Can you say just a little bit more about why it is important that your income account and your operating account are business checking accounts?
Yeah. So if we think about how most small businesses, and honestly, even most large businesses, run their organizations, it's kind of one giant stew pot of money, right? So things get chopped up and thrown in and then stirred around and then served out as needed. And what that does is it really obscures some very important data, which again, larger corporations can afford to parse out in different ways. But when we're, less than 5 million, we may not have those tools, or have that be affordable for us to access those tools to be able to figure out really like what are the income trends. And so having your income account as a separate account rather than mixed in with your expenses lets you easily graph and see over time, right? Not just the sort of small day-to-day waves of your income ocean, but also the larger tidal movements over seasons. And another benefit that I hadn't thought about until yesterday when I had a conversation with a client was she needed to file her sales tax, and her bookkeeping was not up to date. And I was like, well, you've got everything you need right in your income account, right? Like you can look at your sales, and if they're all taxable sales, great, done. You don't even have to run a report on that. So that's why it's important to have it separated out. And the reason that it's important to have it separated as a business account rather than a personal account is because you want to be seen by the outside world as a business. So you can use your business name on it, which is important so that people are writing checks, or making ACHs to your business. But also because, in the unlikely event of an IRS audit, it's very clear this is for business and the rest of my life is somewhere else.
Right.
Whereas if it's a personal account, that sort of raises some eyebrows and causes some questions that just didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
And my sort of very crude way of describing that is, it's like having the IRS over to your house and leaving your bathroom door open while you're using it. Like there's information they just don't need about you. So like close the door between you and your business so that your personal life is personal and your business life is more public.
I feel like there's also something to be said for having a banking relationship. So online banks are great for ease of use and affordability, but there's rarely a real person that you can get on with. I mean, one of the reasons we like Relay banks so much is because they are very personal, in addition to being highly affordable and online and easy. But it pays to just have a bank where you can go in and ask questions. If things get tough, you could get a PPP loan, or you could get a line of credit, to get you through a hard patch. None of this stuff we want to do, but sometimes just it's almost like a form of insurance to have a banking relationship.
Absolutely.
In that way.
Yeah, because your banker can help you strategize about things and tell you exactly what they need. And hey, listen, if you just do this little adjustment in 3 months, come back and we might be able to make this work.
Yeah.
And again, Profit First with the multiple bank accounts makes it easy to have an account at a local bank. I might even suggest the income account, because even though we take that down to zero regularly, it shows the amount of money flowing through as opposed to your operating expense, which has only a subset percentage of it, so that they get the big picture. But either way, if you talk to your banker and explain to them, and I've had clients give the book to their banker and be like, this is why I'm opening all these accounts.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, banks don't usually care. They're happy to meet their quotas of opening new accounts.
Yeah. And it increases their deposits when you use Profit First, because within 6 months, you generally have a lot more cash lying around than you did previous to using it.
Absolutely. And things like the profit and the tax are going to stay there as stable amounts until the quarterly payout time.
Yeah. I think it's really good to just think about these practical elements, and just kind of bring it down to earth, right? Because it's like, lots of bank accounts. So I really like that we're talking through these.
Yeah.
What else do you encounter in the clients that we do Profit First consulting, since you're the one who does that with them? Are there any other resistances or questions that come up around bank accounts and having many of them?
I think some people just sort of question it. Do I really need to separate my income out from my expenses? And my answer is no, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
These are all guidelines.
This is compulsory.
None of this is compulsory. But, but the metaphor I love to use is, the junk drawer versus the silverware drawer. And right now you've got a junk drawer full of cash where it's probably in there, but you're not really sure where, and you're digging around and you're just losing time and energy, right? For me, having to search for something, I find incredibly draining.
Mhm.
Like I really have a very limited amount of energy for that until I'm just like, I can't. And that kind of uses up all the energy for the other things I have to do. I may be a little more energy sensitive than many, but for me, it's like, I just want to be able to, to not have to look and be able to put my hand out and know where my keys are, right? Or reach into the cabinet and grab my favorite mug without having to dig through. And so having your bank separated out like that, you don't have to do any of those backwards calculations of, oh, did payroll go through yet? Or because you already have things, you've got your forks separated from your knives.
Yeah.
So you're not going to reach for a fork and accidentally cut your finger.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Any other thoughts about bank accounts?
It's easier than you think.
Yes.
Do your research, find the bank that's going to be free. And again, if you have a relationship with your banker, you can sometimes go into some of the smaller branches and say, I won't have 50,000 in one bank account, but I might have 50,000 over these 5 different accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Will you waive the fees for me? And sometimes they say yes.
Sometimes they say yes.
Always worth an ask.
We can also drop our Relay link into the chat. I mean, we work with a lot of clients working with a variety of different banks, but Relay has been consistently very people focused. Let's put it that way. And they're Canadian, so they're epically cheerful. And how great is that?
Epically cheerful. Yes.
Epically cheerful. Yeah. We have a free resource for folks called 4 Simple Steps to Keeping More of Your Cash. What we were talking about in terms of multiple bank accounts is one of those 4 steps. So if folks who are watching are interested in the rest of the steps, we'll drop a link into the various places, depending on where this is posted. So you can follow up with that. And if you have any questions about Profit First or banks or anything really, comments, general thoughts about the universe, you can drop them down in the chat as well, and we'll get back to you. We always see those pretty quickly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, Eowyn.
It's been fun
to have a little internal conversation every once in a while with our experts and kind people, and not just only bring in wonderful people from the outside.
One of whom will be with you next week. We'll get back to regular programming, but yeah.
Do we know who's on next week?
I do, but whether I can click through and find it very quickly, I don't know.
I'd be able to.
You have it on your calendar, I think.
I don't have my calendar very far from me, so
no surprise
ever.
Next, life by calendar.
Tam, we have
Tamara.
next week. Tamara Milkman.
Yeah,
clickautomations.com.
Yeah, she's got a really wonderful product that helps people with tech overwhelm, which anyone who's running a business nowadays is familiar with.
So join us next week, every Wednesday morning-ish. Morning on the West Coast and early afternoon on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And midnight in Australia or wherever it is. And we have these fun little talks. Great. That's it.
Bye, everybody.
Make sure that we're not.
We might still be live.